copy.
It would be under the link for the Zoom meeting as well. It says for the documents, click here as well. If yours are the same as mine.
If you want to,
Thanks, Karen, that is correct. I just want to let everyone know too that we are now live since it's 3.
We're live.
I'm gonna be muting unless anything comes up.
All right.
hello?
Tim Golden,
Yes,
what did you say you did not receive?
the minutes. I received all 4 cases
Oh.
and I'm on the Google Drive and then there's 4 cases up there.
Anybody else not received their minutes?
They were from the October 1st. No, I got mine.
Did we get?
I got mine.
Oh, it seems kind of odd to me. I don't know why it seems okay, so
What email did they go out in?
Actually, I got mine in mail.
inspector, whatever your email is, the same ones I send your packet stuff to.
Why is that different than that?
Hello?
I received my packet stuff without any issues. I just had not received the other stuff.
Yeah, the minutes were sent to the same email.
My minutes were right underneath the agenda and right before all the application forms in the paper on the.
I don't have an
Yeah, I
agenda.
can send them all together. You're right.
121 Hazel.
I'm getting this meeting mixed up with planning commission, because I sent those separate, but everything was, yeah, so.
Okay.
So I have no agenda. I have the 4 cases and that's all.
Let's not. The game plan, Mary, is to knock out the driveway requests side by side, since they're both in the same
Oh,
area.
so we're gonna go out of order?
Yeah, Joel was
Okay.
asking, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, well, I'll just ask everybody, and like I said, it doesn't matter where we go with them. I'm just waiting to see. I don't think we have everybody on yet. We have Shannon Mills on 2020-12 and Popelka on 2020-13. Do we have anybody from the 355 Westcott, the Hansons? Okay. Or Shinsky? Is anybody here for Shinsky yet?
Nope, Popelka's here.
Yeah, I see that. I see that Shannon Mills is here. That's
Karen
it.
Finsky said she was gonna call the number or was waiting for her daughter to get home to show her how to do the video.
Okay.
Joel, how have you been handling the swearing in of the witnesses?
Well, we really haven't been.
I kind of felt that perhaps that was the case.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you want to do it?
Sure, I can do it.
Okay.
You just have to agree to a remote.
Right. Yeah, I usually get everybody's agreement before we even start, or when
Right.
we first start the meeting. So,
Okay.
Okay, so we're waiting on Shinsky and Hanson.
yes.
Yeah, I don't see either one here.
Well, I suppose we could,
Sure.
if you want, we can start with 2020-12 Shannon Mills, since she's here. Are you there, Shannon?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it is 5 minutes after 3,
We're doing Vermont first.
and the Board of Zoning Appeals generally commences at 3 p.m. And this is a remote Zoom conference, and I guess I will call this meeting to order. And at this time, I would ask Madam Secretary to call the roll.
Joel Fritz,
Present.
Timothy Golden,
Present.
Harold Minnick,
He's excused.
Karen Milbert,
Present.
Julianne Sadowski.
Present.
Okay, for those who are participating, This is remote, and so we need for you to know a couple of things. One, we would need for you to agree to be part of a remote Board of Zoning Appeals hearing as opposed to a live in-person one. If you agree, then we will go forward. You also have to note that we do not have a full board. And you are, if you would like, you can have this matter continued so your case can be heard by a full board, although I don't know when that might happen because we haven't had a full board in several months. But having said that, when we don't have a full board, you live with the decision that we make, and no one really knows whether that other board member would favor your case or not favor your case or whatever. So I just have to, have everybody agree to those two things if they want to go forward today. Shannon, what say you?
Yes, I'll go forward.
Okay, and who is it Thomas or Judith Popelka that's here?
I'm here. Both of us are here.
Oh, okay, very good. Well, we'll start since that's who we have online. We don't have some other people. We'll just kind of start that first. So at this time, the chair will entertain a motion for approval of our sort of minutes of October 1st, I believe it was it not? Yes.
Well, I'll move that we accept the October 1st minutes. I think that Timothy Golden needs a copy though, correct?
That
Yes,
is correct.
I've reviewed them. They're accurate as much as accuracy can be without having the wonderful Kathleen Hopkins court reporters having transcribed them.
Do I have to second it?
Somebody does.
Oh, I'll second that.
Can hear it.
It's been
I didn't know
moved.
if your comment was for second or not.
No.
Hello.
So it's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of October 1st, 2020. I'll say aye.
I,
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Okay, who do we have? Somebody just pop in?
Hi, this is Karen Chinsky. Can you hear me?
Yes.
in stereo.
Stereo.
Wow.
Yeah, Karen, you have two of yourself on the screen, so you have to go out of one.
was already
and just
muted.
be one because you're having a feedback.
Kathy, one was already muted. Karen, I'm gonna keep that one account of yours muted, okay?
Okay.
What do you need to do?
They said it's in stereo, and it is. My daughter's trying to help me set this up.
So is it working?
Now you sound like you're in a concert hall.
He said I sound like I'm in a concert hall.
Check 1, 2.
Oh, well, we can't fix that one. I don't think, wait.
Got a lot of reverb.
Yeah, it's because
I
she's got
apologize.
somehow two of herself on there.
All right. Karen, I don't think you heard me when we first called this meeting to order. This is a remote being done by Zoom. And so we need, if you want to proceed, you have to agree to do this remotely via Zoom. And secondly, we do not have a full board. You have a right to have your case heard by the full board. And if you choose to go forward today, you live with the decision and no one would know whether or not that other board member might favor one side or the other, but you live with our decision. So if you want to go forward, do you understand that of those two things that I just explained to you?
Yes, I did.
Okay, do you want to go forward?
Yeah, we'll go forward.
All right. Well, since you're, okay, so anyway, let me just explain everything. When we call your case, we're going to ask you to present to us why you think you need a variance, why you want a variance. And then we will ask the building inspector to give the city's position on the matter. And then if there's any questions by opponents or proponents, if there's anybody out there in the virtual world that wants to chime in, they can. And then there could be questions and discussion by the board. Seeing as there's been no old business, we'll start with new business. And we'll start with case number 2020-10, Karen Shinsky. 121 Hazel Street, Elyria, Ohio, 44035, requesting a variance from section 1148.03A of the Elyria Codified Ordinances, accessory structures. A 6-foot height by 148-foot length fence is proposed to be constructed on a vacant lot that she owns with the setback from the front property line of 13 foot 10 inches. The zoning code requirement states that an accessory structure may not be located on a vacant lot without a principal structure such as a home. Ms. Shinsky, we're going to first have you sworn in by our court reporter. Since we cannot see you, I would ask you to stand and raise your right hand and let us know when you are doing so.
Okay, I'm
Karen,
all ready.
Can you put on your video?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I know how.
There should be a little camera down,
Left corner.
yeah, in the left corner of the screen. The microphone is right next to it, and then the camera, and you can hit that. And the same goes for Shannon.
There she is.
Julian, you're on.
Yeah.
Ann.
Yeah,
She just
find
muted
everything.
herself though.
Okay.
There, can you see me now? Okay. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. It happens to
It's
everyone.
fine.
I had to have my 15-year-old help me.
Of course, you're so lucky. Okay, Karen, you want to raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the following matter shall be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, Shannon, or I'm sorry, Karen, please tell us why you think you need this variance.
I have dogs and kids, of course, and I just want to put a fence up to keep my dogs safe and kids safe, and I just want to surround in the area so that my dogs will have more room to run. My kids I have a pool in my backyard too. That'll help keep it safer, because I want to make it all one big yard. But I just want to keep my dogs safe and my kids safe and my property safe.
Okay, is that it?
I guess like I said, I just want to put a fence up to keep my dogs safe and the kids in the yard.
Okay. Well, how about Mr. Farkas from the city? Could you give us the city's position on this, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. The property is currently zoned residential 2-household district, the requirements of which are found in chapter 1148 of the Elyria Codified Ordinance. The plan information indicates a 6-foot high by 148 in length fence to be built on a vacant lot that is owned and is 13 feet 10 inches from the property line as indicated per the site plan. Specifically per section 1148.03A, accessory structures, fences, etc. may not be located on a lot without first having a principal use. We're getting pretty good at doing these in regards to knowing what the requirements are. I don't know if I have to go in much deeper other than indicating that our zoning code would not permit it as proposed.
Yeah, it seems like we've had a slew of these lately, have we not?
That is true.
May I
Okay,
ask a question?
Sure.
What is required to have a fence? I mean, I don't want to build on the property, and
That's the point, Karen. You can't have a fence per the ordinance when you don't have a principal structure on that lot.
I understand that, but I mean, someday I might want to build a garage, but that would be all I would put on it. I don't want to put a home on it. It's not a huge lot.
You would be in the same predicament you are now. You would require a variance to build that accessory structure on that vacant lot. You may be better apt to combine the two lots, making them one, and you would not have this concern. Just
Yeah, that's what else they told me, but my understanding is it would cost a whole lot for a surveyor to come out and survey the whole property and everything. I mean, just to put up a fence.
Yeah, well,
I know my neighbor's all for it. He even wrote a letter to put in with my application for it.
I understand, but you have to understand also that, you know, we do kind of rest on our laurels a little bit in some precedent. And although there may have been one or two that we've allowed, I can remember in the past, maybe even last month or the month before, we had to deny a person's request very similar to yours and basically advised them to go combine the lots and then they wouldn't have that problem. I'll stop talking. Does anybody else have any questions?
No, Mr.
I may be speaking out of line for a temporary fix, but you can always put a pre-made kennel temporarily, kennel. I know that doesn't give them room to run, but it gives them room to be outside if you make it big enough without, as long as it was temporary and not fixated on the property.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, they go in my backyard now, but I just, like I said, I just want to give them more room to run. And, you know, being that I'm a responsible pet owner, my pets are microchipped and the whole thing, but, you know, I just want to keep them safe, you know? And that's the whole purpose of wanting to put up a fence.
Sure, we understand that. And we appreciate the fact that you are a responsible pet owner. And I think there are, or there may be some other alternatives, as Ms. Mobert had suggested. Anyone else? Does anybody else have any questions, comments? If not, then the chair will entertain a motion on case number 202010, Karen Shinsky, 121 Hazel Street, Elyria, Ohio, 44035.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to deny the request for this variance.
It has been moved that we deny the variance of 2020-10. Do I hear a second? Anyone?
I'm going to second that motion more so as instead of totally denying it, tabling it, perhaps if she wants to get a surveyor out there to give her a quote on how much it would cost to combine the two parcels into one parcel. And then she wouldn't even need this variance.
Then we wouldn't need to table it either.
Well, good point. Thank you, Joel. That's correct.
Okay.
You're right.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded that we deny case number 202010. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Nay,
And those opposed?
nay.
No, ma'am, you don't have a right to vote on this. Sorry, that's just the board. Okay, so the motion's carried, and I'm sorry, Ms. Shinsky, but your variance has been denied. But I would suggest that you look into combining the lots. All right. We don't have Hanson's on yet. I don't believe. So let's go to case number 202012, Shannon Mills, 507 Vermont Road, Elyria, Ohio, 44035, requesting a variance from section 1144.07 of the Elyria Codified Ordinances front yard setback. The proposed structure is to be approximately 15 feet 6 inches from the property line of Vermont Road, as measured from the foundation of the addition to the front property line. The zoning code requirement states that the minimum front yard setback for properties in the RMD district shall not be less than 30 feet. Shannon?
Yes,
Okay, we need you to turn on your video if you can, and then stand and raise your right hand to be sworn.
okay, I can't, the only thing I got is for the volume. There's nothing showing for
There's not a little,
video.
there's not a little camera right next to your microphone.
No,
Are you on a telephone?
yes,
Oh, okay. Well, then she may not be able to do it.
Okay. Well, just let us
But-
know when you're standing and raising your right hand. Then,
Yeah. Shannon, just raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the following matter shall be the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay.
okay, Shannon, tell us why you would like us to grant your variance.
Okay, my boyfriend is gonna be doing the speaking on my behalf because he knows more about what's going on with this than I do. And his
Okay.
name is John Barnes. He was listed on there also.
Okay. John, you'll need to be sworn in as well, sir.
Okay,
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the following matter shall be the truth, so help you God?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, John, give us your argument, sir.
Okay, when she bought the house, we were thinking she owned to the road. But there's 40 more foot of property in front of her property line before you even hit the road. That I guess the city still owns, and we didn't know that. Well, that's why when we went for this addition, turning the prints, we didn't know that she only owned like 40 feet instead of the whole 75 or 80. So, and we can't build out the back because there's a garage there. I don't know if you have the paperwork from the title company that we turned in that shows it.
Yeah, it was kind of attached here.
And we were kind of hoping that we could use that extra 40 foot, which there's nothing ever going to be done with it because we're on a little dead end road, basically. We're up against the turnpike. So their property's never going to be used for anything from the city, and we still have to maintain it and everything. So I don't see why we can't use it for setback.
Okay, is that it? You got anything more?
Basically, that, I mean, we were just trying to make the house bigger. I mean, it's a little 36 by 24 foot house, and basically trying to give it more room.
Yes,
John,
when I-
what was your last name, John?
Barnes, Barnes.
Okay, thank you. Was there someone else?
Hey, it's
Okay,
just Shannon again.
okay,
Yeah, I just wanted to say, when I had bought this house, it was my first home, and I bought it because I figured it's gonna be my last home. I was hoping. So when I bought the house, I was not aware of the yard in the front. I assumed when we looked at it, everybody's like, "Yeah, you got such a great big yard from the realty and stuff." So I assumed I owned it. And when I looked at the paperwork, I didn't take into consideration the size that was wrote down. I just didn't realize it. So when I had bought the house, I automatically figured coming in that I'd be able to actually add on to it just to make it a little bit bigger for to be able to live here and have the space.
all right, I understand. Anything further from either you or John?
No, not really. I mean, I was hoping to do this so I could show. I was hoping the video would come on and I could take you to the front yard. I painted markings on the yard, but I don't know how to get it on video.
Well, I think we kind of see it from the Old Republic. It kind of looks like or something there. But anyway, okay, well, how about Mr. Farkas for the city of Elyria, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. The property is currently zoned residential medium density district, the requirements of which are found in chapter 1144 of the Elyria codified ordinance. The proposed application indicates the new structure to be approximately 15 feet 6 inches from the front property line of Vermont Road, as measured from the foundation to the property line. Per the requirements of section 1144.07, all structures must maintain a minimum 30-foot setback from front property lines. This particular area is unique as there is, for some reason, an exorbitant amount of right-of-way in this particular area. I don't know why they've done this. I guess it was just because that's the way the plat worked out when they did the subdivision. The addition, if installed to the rear due to the existing detached garage, I think would not be feasible If the garage were further back, perhaps they could go that way. I think the proposal on the front of the structure, in my opinion, is the only way to go. The only detriment is it will stick out in front of all the others. So I will leave it in the board's hands in regards to what they want to do next.
How many, is that the last house on this dead end street?
No, sir. No, sir. I'm the last house on the street at 505. You're talking about 507 with Miss Mills.
Okay. And
So
you're here
I'm
to voice your opinion on this matter, sir?
Yes, sir, if it's
All
my
right.
turn.
Okay,
So my name is John
well,
Jones.
hold on.
Sure,
Hold on.
sir.
I'm going to ask you to state your name and then raise your right hand so you can be sworn, okay?
Yes, sir. My name is Dr. John Jones. I'm the son of the neighbor, Miss Donna Jones, who's a widow of some 10 years.
Okay. Are you the resident or the?
No, sir. I'm speaking on her behalf because as a 70-some-year-old, she is technologically illiterate.
That's fine. Go ahead, Kathy.
Okay, do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the following matter shall be the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Please proceed, sir.
Yes, sir. So if you can see me waving, you can see my right hand. You can see that you can see all the way to Hilliard Road. And so the proposed expansion they're talking about would be about to right here where my index finger is. And so that would block off from my mother's front window on the opposite side of the street. There are 8 houses. One's about right here. It would block 4 of those 8 houses completely and the entire side of this side of the street. There are 9 houses on this side of the street, all with very similar setbacks following the street, which is straight, which is, as the fellow said, some 30 feet required plus the easement. 5 of those 9 houses, including my mother's, have all built onto the back in one form or another to add more room. These were nice, comfortable homes built in the 50s, typically with a garage. And so they've typically expanded to the garage, around the garage, or different things. And as for the garage on 507, I know in the 80s and my mother's house, these garages weren't even built with footers properly. And so the blocks that were supporting the garages, the garage needed to be jacked up and moved a few feet to even get more footer support to actually even make them. So they're nothing more than a simple slab. So in terms of the view, the property value, and you can look on Google Earth at all the surrounding streets, they all have uniform setbacks. You know, if a 24-foot structure were added in front of my mother's house, they would have a 180-degree view of the house at all times if they wanted. It would limit my mother's visibility. My mom's house is some 3 feet from the turnpike fence. So there's always someone breaking down sporadically and coming around. And I just wouldn't like the isolation of, you know, other neighbors not being able to kind of watch out for her. And so for these kind of reasons, you know, she would be opposed to it. And so I'm speaking on her behalf because I'm not the resident.
Thank you, sir. Madam Secretary, other than this property owner, any other adjacent property owners respond?
We do have another one that is here joining us, Stanley.
Okay.
He would like to speak on behalf of that, but other than these 2, those are the only 2 that I heard from.
Okay.
And you should be getting a message that says to unmute if you're joined by computer. If you're on phone, you
I
may
don't know
have to
who's
press the
speaking.
number 2.
Wait a minute, who's speaking right now?
That's Ren.
Stanley, is this you as the phone number?
I'm sorry?
Can I ask
Hello?
you just called in from the phone
Hello?
number?
Yes.
Thanks for unmuting, Stanley. Who just called in from the phone number?
Yeah, this is Bruce and Elaine Hanson.
Okay, you just hang on. We'll get to you in a little bit. We're on something else, but just hang on, okay?
Okay, no problemo.
All right. All right, Stan?
Yes.
Okay. Could you pronounce your last name, sir?
Wadella.
Okay, Stan, we need you to raise your right hand so you can be sworn.
Okay.
Okay, do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the following matter shall be the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, please proceed, sir.
Well, I really don't have any much more to say than what Greg has given you.
If I
during
could
his-
say, that's my middle name, John Gregory.
Okay.
Yes.
That's why he said.
I'm like, who's Greg?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Stanley.
Okay. I don't know what to say. I believe that the structure itself might be a devaluation of the property around it. And yes, it would block off a great amount of space there. That's about all I could say right at the moment, because I haven't really been able to look at it. The letter I received from the city was on Saturday, and today's Thursday. So it really, there was only a few days in which to try and get this thing squared away.
Stanley, where do you live? What's your address?
509
So you're at 509
Vermont.
is that two houses up from how many?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Miss Mills is in between our two homes.
Okay, so you're closer to
Stanley is on the other side of the driveway of the last page document showing the street plan of Miss Mills' property.
right. He's closer to the
mother's-
road. He's closer to Hilliard, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And so my mom's house is spaced about 7 feet. Stanley has the driveway between the house and his.
Okay, understood. It was weird. Yesterday I went to every location except for this one. I imagine there might be some more people that want to talk. My preference would be to table this, but if anybody has anything they want to say, any questions, please feel free.
Joel, if I may, it may help if you were to visit the Lorain County Auditor's website and do a map view. That will take you right there.
Right. Well, I'm kind of technologically an idiot as well, and so I can't do that at the same time we're doing this. But
If you
I'm kind of old school. I'd like to actually see the property. But anyway.
if you do Google or Google Maps and you can click the satellite view, or if you take it off the satellite view, it will show you the easement of the city versus
Right.
the property line.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, anybody have anything to say, board members?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
no, ladies first, please.
Ladies first.
Thank you. It's really more a question to Mr. Farkas. Is there any opportunity for this homeowner to appeal or potentially request purchasing a portion of the easement from the city?
That I cannot answer, as this particular right-of-way is, again, I mentioned, very large. It's 100 feet is the right-of-way. Typically, we have 60-foot right-of-way. I imagine if there's an easement, that I would think Mr. Taylor is on board. Perhaps he can respond to this.
Does that go for the whole street, Daryl?
It goes
Yes,
all the
sir.
way down Vermont.
Yes, sir.
So everybody has this 40-foot
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
in front of their house.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Which they're forbidden from building any carports or any such thing because it's an easement.
Correct.
This is John again. Can I say something? Can I respond to that?
Sure.
All right. Well, I've talked to Donna, and it sounded like when we showed her the plans before we even did this, she said that would be nice. So we were understanding We
No.
wanted under the understanding that she wouldn't have a problem. And
No.
we knocked on all the doors, and the other house, we couldn't get anybody to even answer doors so we could talk to them about it.
Oh, okay.
And Donna is the one who told us that originally she was thinking that the reason we didn't own that is because they were originally going to put an overpass when they built the turnpike. And
Well,
I
that's-
don't.
I mean,
see
that's
that
beside the
happening.
point. It's an easement regardless, sir.
Right, but that's why I heard it was left as an easement.
I
But
wish it was
I don't know that for.
Mr. Golden, you had something there?
Yes, yes, sir. It actually directed to you. You made the comment that you would consider tabling this. Is there a reason why you would like to table it?
Well, I suppose that maybe I spoke too quickly, but I mean, yesterday was a beautiful day and I said, you know what, I'm gonna go visit all of these sites. And I got to every single one of them. And again, Mr. Farkas said, this is a unique situation, a unique property. And that just kind of piqued my interest, and I just didn't do it enough service, is all I'm saying. I'm not trying to say which way I would vote in any regards. I just, in my own head, because I visited every single other place yesterday, I did not visit this. Mr. Taylor, are you on board with us?
Well, so first off, I think you'd have to have the property owner agree to the continuance. I mean, the case law is Duncan v. Middlefield. It talks about, whether I can go through all the different requirements. But basically, I'm just going to read this. I always pull this up. I just did one myself representing a customer in Wellington Township.
Were you successful?
It's got to basically be the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or whether there can be any beautification without the variance. That's a little bit different for here. Is the variance substantial? Again, it's a board decision. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, or whether adjoining property owners would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of government services, that really wouldn't apply here. Whether the property owner purchased property with knowledge of the zoning restriction, and whether the property owner's predicament feasibly cannot be obtained through some other method. And then whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by the variance. So those are the factors that you're really supposed to, and when you make the decision, you have to go through those. We'd almost be better to, in this case, if there's a debate and there's not going to be an adjournment, I think you have to decide. I think we can go off record to make discuss these issues and then come back on, but that's up to you, or we can do it item by item and then take a vote.
Either way, we can try to go. You want to go offline, folks?
Well, I can tell you something about this. At Carlisle Township, we have to read those at every case.
Right.
Because the county prosecutor wants those in case there's an appeal.
You're correct. I just did one in Wellington Township, and after I used that case, and it was comical when I finished, they adjourned to decide and then came back in and went through everything I had already said to them, going through the characteristics. And again, some of those 7 items don't necessarily apply in every case. Effect on government services. Is it going to affect snow plow or delivery of water? Those you can just kind of breeze by in certain cases. So I don't care whether you do it open. Again, even if you come back, you have to go on the record and explain your decision, as Ms. Hopkins said.
Right.
That's the standard when you grant a variance. It really should be done in every case. Now, sometimes if you're moving a fence up 1 inch, you may not go through all of that, but. So first, if the property owner wants to table it so that you can do additional research, that's not a problem. You're allowed to do that. But if she doesn't grant that, doesn't authorize it, I believe you have to make a decision.
Right. No, I understand that. I'm only one of this board, so it would have to be, obviously, the property owner would have to agree, but I think also the rest of the board should probably have to agree as well.
Well, no, she'd be the one requesting the continuance.
Right.
No, I understand that. But if she says, I get it. So.
Okay.
I don't know if, are they still on? Wait a minute.
Yes, we're still here.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody brought up I don't know who it was, one of your board members, what are the chances of us buying that additional property?
It's not a
So we,
question, not a question that can be answered by the boarding, the BOZA, Board of Zoning
Yeah.
cannot answer that question.
okay,
And I have a question. How is it by me putting an addition on my house to beautify my house and my property going to lower the value of somebody else's property? I'm choosing to better my home, not, lower the value anywhere else.
I'm not saying you're right or wrong, man, but you could have that opinion and your other neighbors could have a different opinion. And then this board would have to decide whether that,
Yeah.
what part of that argument they want to use as a crux for their decision.
True.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
like our legal counsel indicated that one of the Duncan V. Minifield questions is this substantial?
Right.
This is 50%,
Yes, I agree.
and it's quite substantial. That is all.
Okay. Well, I mean, the questions, I believe are in the packet. Okay.
Yeah.
So, again, they've made their arguments. I haven't heard any request to table, so I guess the chair will consider a motion on case number 2020-10, I'm sorry, not 2020-10, 2020-12 Shannon Mills, 507 Vermont Road.
Well, I think Joel, again, since this is obviously debated, we need to go through the Duncan Middlefield questions. We can't just have a vote and say yes or no. As Ms. Hopkins pointed out, if there's an appeal, you have to basically say why you granted or denied.
Okay,
So if you want to go.
so let's go with the factors that are listed.
Okay.
So the first one, and we'll go through what their answers were too, whether there are any special conditions or circumstances that exist which are peculiar to the land or structure involved, which are not applicable generally to other lands or structures. Okay. I say in this particular case that there is something peculiar to the land. There's a very huge easement that doesn't normally exist in almost any other part of the city.
But just a point, but does it exist for the other property owners? That's just.
Yes, no, and it does. It actually exists for the entire street. I would note for that. Okay. Anybody else want to comment on that particular factor?
No.
Okay. Next factor, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. Well, we haven't got any evidence on whether it would yield a reasonable return, but in my mind, obviously there's been some beneficial use to that property because somebody's been living in it for years. It was built in the 50s. Anybody want to comment on that factor?
Well, that question says without the variance. So without the variance, does the property exist as it exists as a home? I think the answer is
yes.
There
Currently is.
Yeah. The answer would be yes. It already has a return. Okay. Does everybody agree? Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Anybody disagree? Okay.
All right. Next, whether the variance is substantial and is the minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land or structures. Anybody want to comment on that factor? The only thing I can say is I've heard some testimony here today that people have somehow put additions on the rears of their property as opposed to that side of the property, which I guess there is some evidence to indicate that this isn't necessarily the minimum necessary to make the possible reasonable use of the land. Would anybody agree with that statement?
I would agree, and it's not unusual. It may not be as convenient, but it's not unusual if they choose to build off the back of the property that they would sacrifice the use of a garage, but they would utilize the property, the square footage of the property, much more efficiently than what Mrs. Mills is experiencing now.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment on this factor?
No.
Okay. Next factor, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance. Again, I would say we've heard some evidence both ways. We've heard the property owner saying it's going to beautify and make their house more beautiful. And but we've also heard some testimony that there would be some hindrance to another property owner by virtue of that thing being built. Hold on for a second. I am on a Zoom meeting. Please don't bother me, okay? My people know that I'm doing this. But anyway, would anybody agree with that statement?
Again, Joel, that question is as to the neighborhood and the adjoining property owners, not to the property owner themselves.
No, I know. I'm just saying we've heard testimony. I get it that the property owner said it would make it beautiful, but we've also heard some evidence that it would hinder another property owner's enjoyment of their property.
I agree.
I also agree.
Okay. Do we need any other discussion on that factor? All right. Next factor, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. We've kind of already gone over that. That's kind of non-applicable. Would we agree that that's kind of non-applicable?
Yes.
Okay. Next factor, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restrictions. I think we heard testimony that they did not have knowledge of that. They didn't check into it when they bought it. They didn't know whether or not there were those restrictions.
Although I would like to make a comment that every property that is purchased also has a survey done to it if there's a loan involved of that owner. So, Ms. Mills, did you receive a survey when you purchased the property?
Yes, I have a thing that shows it, but when you look at the property, when you pull up and you say, yeah, I automatically assumed you own it. I didn't put in factor the size. I just didn't put two and two together with the size of what I was shown and told I owned.
But you did receive that. I agree with Karen.
Yeah.
Most of the time you have a survey and you also have a title report that would.
Yeah, you guys have a copy of it too. It was included. It does show that she only owns 39 foot, but unless you look at it real close, you just think you own to the road. I mean,
But based on that, you would have knowledge, and that would be the decision of the board. But based on that, would the board think that is knowledge? Their decision, not mine.
Right. Any other statements or comments on that factor?
Nope.
Okay, last factor, whether special conditions or circumstances exist as a result of actions of the owner. They've answered no. That's their answer. Correct? Does everybody agree with that?
Based on what we see, what we're reading, yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Golden?
I think it's too vague, the answer no myself, but.
Right. Right. You mean their answer's too vague?
That is correct.
What exactly are you looking for an answer? Special? We didn't do anything. We're just asking. So I don't know. I don't know if anybody else ever asked for a variance and got denied. So I don't know if it's a special condition. I mean, we're just asking for a variance, going.
Mr. Chair, if I could interject.
Certainly.
To try to simplify it, let's say they only wanted to come out 9 feet from their house. They would be 30 feet from the front property line and be completely in compliance, and in essence, still building in the front of their house away from the existing lines of all the other homes, and we would have no say. Just food for thought.
Understood. Okay.
And I believe that question, and when you read the case law, did the owners do anything to cause the special conditions or circumstances? I believe that's interpretation, but again, everybody can review it. I don't believe they put an addition on and then asked for this, but again, interpret it as you may.
I'm in agreement. The answer would be no.
Okay. Next, I believe that these are the same ones that are on here. Is that correct, Mr. Golden and Jim? These are all those. These are the factors.
They're worded a little bit differently, but those are the basics of the question.
Right. So the next one would be whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than the variance.
Correct.
And I believe Mr. Farkas just kind of said food for thought. If they were to only build 9 feet out, we would not be here. I think we've heard some testimony that there could be some building behind but they would lose a garage. Anybody else comment on this one?
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Exactly.
Then again, on number 9, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting a variance. Well, I don't know that the spirit, that's kind of an esoteric question. What do you think, Mr. Golden?
Well, I agree with your statement. I'd rather actually hear from the our legal counsel, see what his thoughts are.
That's obviously the weirdest one of all the findings.
It certainly is,
because everybody's going to have their own theory about what do you believe the spirit and intent of the zoning requirement is. If it is to have setbacks and requirements when you have recognized impediments to the property.
That's correct.
Does there, are we, by granting this variance, still sticking with the basic requirements of our zoning, knowing the property owner takes subject to these issues? And then if substantial justice done, that is purely a decision of this board. That's not something
right
you can comment on. It could be Mr. Gold's opinion, yes, Ms. Mobert's opinion, no. Because again, what is the word substantial? Obviously, it means more than the average, but again, it is very, very, you all could agree on one, or you could split on that one easily, or you could all disagree.
I would say that this comes to mind in this question. In the past, in some other areas of the city, when there wasn't a 30-foot setback, meaning the property was built prior to the code, and people have asked to put a porch on or do something like that. We have in the past granted those kinds of things, have we not?
That is true.
And I don't know, I don't know if that just comes to mind with this question. We have in the past done this in those situations. I don't know if this is exactly the same, but we have, like over in the Heights, those kinds of things.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. I don't know if we resolved that or not, but let's, okay, let's move on. 10, whether the granting of the variance requested will confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this regulations, by this regulation to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. Well, I can't recall us doing anything in this particular district for a long time. So I don't know if that.
I don't think that question means if they can do it, does that mean the next door neighbor can do it
Right.
on either side? And then, then you're all doing something different in regards to that. I think that's more the question of not what was done in the past. What does this do to other people? Now, look at the past, but also then look at the future. What precedent do you set?
Right. Anytime I think you grant a variance, you may set some form of precedence. So in that sense, you know, that could possibly have an effect with other property owners on the street or in the area, certainly. Okay, anything further? Anybody want to comment on that?
That's exactly the purpose of the city sending out notices of these types of requests, though, for variances, to see if there's going to be any type of complaint or concern, or if it's going to impede on their individual property. So even in the past, if something was granted, chances are there was not a challenge to that, is how
Sure.
I would see it.
Okay. Anyone else on that one? No? Last one. The variance sought is the minimum which will afford relief to the applicant. I would have to say no on that, in that we've heard testimony that there are other things that can be done. May not be to the liking of the applicant, but there has been some testimony given here that there is other things that could be done. Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay. Well, having gone through that, which it sounds like our legal counsel is going to want us to do every time on every case, the chair will entertain a motion on, gosh, I got it, we mixed them up. What's that? 2020-12 Shannon Mills, 507 Vermont Road, Elyria.
Joel, I apologize. I was 2 minutes or so late to this one. Did we notify them that Hal is not here and they were going?
Yes, everybody was notified that it's a full board. Well, wait a minute. Was Shannon here for that one?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And she agreed to go forward, full board, and that it's not a full board, and that it is Zoom. So she agreed to go through for both.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway. Chair is listening.
I believe someone makes a motion either way, and then I would put some background into what that decision was, so that if there is an appeal, we've reserved them all and talked about them all, but as to why your decisions were made that way, and that way there's a record.
Got it.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion. And my motion is to deny this request for the variance. I'm sorry, I don't have the variance number in front of me.
The case number's 2020-12 variance from section 1144.07 of the Elyria codified ordinances.
Thank you.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second?
All right, I'm going to second in agreement with Mr. Golden that we deny the variance as it's stated. It sounds like it would cause surrounding neighbors concerns with their comfort of their home.
Well, Mr. Golden, you were, well, first of all, it's been moved and seconded that we deny case number 2020-12 Shannon Mills, 507 Vermont Road, Elyria, Ohio. All in favor say aye.
Joel, before you vote, I would ask that Mr. Golden or Ms. Mobert indicate, Kieran's already indicated one reason.
Right.
The other reasons that anybody would think it should be denied.
You're right, Jim. Yeah, you're right. I was gonna ask Mr. Golden to explain his reasoning for his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry about that.
That's no problem. Asking for a discussion. couple of problems there. We've heard from two neighbors already that have indicated that their visual view would be altered. The Duncan v. Minifield does call out is this substantial or the minimum, paraphrasing. And I think it is a substantial request for a variance. I do think that putting an addition on this house, like Mr. Farkas indicated, by 9 foot would be within the zoning code. And I also think there is alternatives of possibly going to the rear part of the yard, even with the raising of the garage and or moving the garage. That was my purpose for my denial.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded that we deny this case number 2020-12, having heard the arguments from both of the movements, Mr. Golden and Ms. Mobert. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? And the ayes have it. The request for variance is denied. Thank you, everyone, on this case. Thank you, Ms. Mills. I apologize. I'm sorry that we didn't grant your variance. But there are certain things that we have to do that we don't like sometimes.
Okay, who do we speak to about trying to buy that frontage?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
You probably got to find out who owns it.
What was that?
You probably have to find out who owns the property.
The city.
The city, I'm assuming.
Okay, then I guess
I just figured
you
you
should
might
go to
know.
the mayor or somebody. I don't know.
You'd start out with the mayor and not me, it'd be the law department at that point, Miss Deary and staff.
Okay. But thank you for participating today. We appreciate it. Okay. Let's move on to case number, I guess, can we hear these together, Jim? They're both on the same street, or do we have to do them one at a time?
I think you have to do them one at a time.
All right. Okay, case number 2020-11, Bruce L. and Elaine Hanson, 355 Westcott Way, Elyria, Ohio, 44035, requesting a variance from section 1175.03 of the Elyria Codified Ordinances. The proposed driveway extension is indicated to be 3 feet in width and is to be installed adjacent to the existing 16-foot driveway. The combined driveway coverage calculates at 36.54%, and the zoning code requirement states that areas of a driveway in a front yard shall not exceed 33.33% of the area of such yard. I believe Bruce and Elaine Hanson are here. Do you not have the ability to be on video, Hansons? You need to turn on at least on your audio, because you're on mute.
I don't know if we can.
If you're only on a telephone, you may need to press *6. There we go.
Ah,
there we go.
They were on before. Can
Yeah.
you hear us?
Whoops.
Was
They're
that?
good.
Yeah.
They're muted again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. They were on, they were off, they were on, and then they were off again.
Yeah, they're in their telephone.
There we go. They're off. They're back on.
Hansons, are you there?
Oh.
Okay.
Is this the Hovanian development?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
Hovanian.
4 Seasons.
Okay. Well, before we especially discuss this, only because I've been over there and I've been to enough of these developments
Me
lately.
too.
Daryl, I know they build the minimum driveway requirements over there so that when you park the 2 cars, it's tough to get out of the car on the right or the left. But some people I know are doing it without getting permission. That's my opinion from going over there. I think the appropriate matter is to deal with this, that there's not a variance across the board for anybody. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, I went over there too. 362 is wide, 370 is wide, 329 is wide, 325 is wide, 308 right next door to 312 is wide.
If I guess I could speak now in lieu of waiting for my
Sure.
response. The subdivision is zoned residential low density as any property that's annexed into the city. The developer requested a conditional use to do a residential planned unit development, which gives them certain grace in regards to either larger lots or smaller lots having closer setbacks, further setbacks. In this particular development, when it was originally submitted, they indicated all driveways to be 16 feet, period. That review never triggered a zoning concern because it showed compliance. But I guess as these units sold, the sales pitch was, we can give you a larger driveway. Some did sneak through. We are cleaning those up. Many variances come through. We're out in these fields. We're seeing these things and we're notifying you guys just can't do this. There's a process. We're trying to wrangle these lots from not making their entire front yard a parking lot, which a lot of these are leaning that way because there isn't much width to these lots.
Well,
So
yeah, let me just say something. Because I was over there, and it may be, to the naked eye, every one of those lots looks identical in terms of size. Now, they may be a little different, and that's why one of them exceeds it by 38.46 or the other one by 33. But those lots are so small that a 3 to 10% difference is huge.
it is, it adds up.
But I will tell you this, in my own opinion, because the driveway just goes to the inner lip of the garage. So you're as wide as your garage is. The ones that go to the outside of the garage, they all should have that because they look great. That's just my opinion. But anyway, and that might not have anything to do with the factors of Middlefield, but
Well, no, I think you can take the factors into grant the variance should the panel so decide.
Yeah.
Zero
Yeah.
also put in the right
I'm
comment.
I just wanted to because I spent a better part of 20, 30 minutes over there looking at every single driveway and got my truck all muddy and everything. So,
And it is, I mean, I parked there because I have friends who live there, and I'm not making an opinion. If you do the narrow ones, there is no room to step outside if you have two big
there isn't.
cars.
You're going to step in the yard.
But Daryl's correct. I think these people have to come in, like, unfortunately, and blame the developer if you want, because you can't blame the city. We didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
We said it was in compliance with what they wanted to build. I think all of these people need to file their variance. I don't care if the panel grants them all, but you still, because as you said, Joel, it takes up 3% or 5% makes a big difference, but yet it's the spirit. You can go through Middlefield. But I think Daryl's right. We have to notify these people and then they come in. And if you start a precedent where you keep approving them, it's going to be pretty simple.
Certainly.
If you start picking on one saying yes and one no, that's difficult. Or if you say no to one, I think you need to say no to them all.
Right. And the poor Hansons, they only have half of it. The other half has the rebar just sitting in the dirt dugout. Anyway, so
I think the Hansons were on again.
Hansons, are you there? Well, you know what? Do you want to go to Propelka since it's the same one?
Sure.
They're on mute also.
Yeah, they're on mute as well. Every time we ask the Hansons if they're there, it sounds like they go to speak and it gets cut off.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Is this, who
Can you
is
hear
this?
me now?
Is this Mr. Propelka?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. We're going to skip 2020-11. We're going to go to 2020-13. Thomas and Judith Propelka, 312 Westcott Way, Elyria, Ohio, requesting a variance from section 1175.03 of the Elyria Codified Ordinances. The proposed driveway extension is indicated to be 2 foot in width and is to be installed adjacent to the existing 16-foot driveway on both sides. The total width of the proposed driveway will be 20-foot max permitted, and the combined driveway coverage calculates to be 38.46%. And of course, the zoning code requirement states that this area of the driveway in the front yard shall not exceed 1/3 or 33.33% of the area of such yard. And Mr. Propelka, you may have just heard us make your argument for you, but please tell us why you want your variance.
Well, in background to this, I contracted with the builder for the expanded drive, and it would have been lumped into my mortgage payment. When they were ready to put the drive in, they said, well, you know, the city won't allow you to have it. So I didn't think anything of it until my immediate neighbor's house, who was constructed 1 month after mine, they put in the expanded drive for the same size lot. The developer told me they made a mistake, and if the city wanted them to rip it out, they'd rip it out. Well, I guess they didn't rip it out, so he's got it, and I'd like him to keep it. I'm in my 80s. My wife is in her 70s. And my daughter lives with us, adult daughter. So we got 3 cars, one is always parked outside. Visitors are generally elderly or disabled coming in and out of the driveway. So I looked at the figures that you gave me, the 38.46, and I decided that I could still expand my drive on one side and still meet the variance requirements of 33.3. And since I've already had the landscaping put in and sprinkler systems are adjacent to the driveway, to minimize my cost, I would probably just expand the driveway on one side, 2 feet. And I would shorten the length of it by 5 feet, not to interfere with the landscaping that's against the driveway. So doing that, I come up with a 31.3%, which is within the variance of doing that.
You mean you don't need the variance?
That sounds like you don't even need the variance.
Well, now, yeah, right. That would be the case, the way I see it.
Darryl, if his math is correct, is that correct?
Yeah, there would be no need for the request, but I must point, we're here.
Yeah, we're here, we don't know if the math is correct, and I'm not saying
Well,
your math isn't
I'm
correct.
using I'm using the figures that you gave me with you're using 2,184 square feet for my yard. So that's what gave me the 38.46 outside of the variance. So using the 2184 for the yard and going to my proposed expanding it on one side for only 38 feet length and 2 feet wide, it would give me it would put me within the variance of 31.3. So I go ahead and do that, I guess.
Let me ask you, Mr. Popelka, what was the cost? What was it going to cost you when you were going to lump that into your mortgage for that extra?
$1,500.
All right. So, and if you were going to do both sides and your variance was granted, you'd have to come out of pocket $1,500, right?
No, probably, since they'd have to move the sprinkler system.
Oh, yeah.
And everything else, my neighbor said it'd be closer to $4,000.
Yeah. I mean, assuming that you didn't have all of that other stuff done is all.
Yeah.
I'm saying. Yeah. All right.
Which I'm getting, I have some heartburn with the builder because they showed us what it would look like when we went through the building specifications. And up to the time they were pouring cement, they said you couldn't have it. And then the immediate neighbor, same size lot, gets his poured. And I'm staring at that every day.
That's at 308, right?
Yeah, 308 is correct.
Yeah. And just my personal opinion is every single one of them should have concrete out to the outside of the garage on each side. That's my own personal opinion.
Okay. So with my change plan, now I got to look at the financial side.
Certainly.
I can't lump it in with the mortgage, so I got to come up with the cash. So I'm just going to go with one side.
What a shame.
Sir, we can do the math for you, but if your math is correct, and I'm not sure if Daryl can at this point in this quick a time, if you don't need the variance, you can withdraw your request. If you meet the requirements, and you can do what you want to do. Is that correct, Daryl?
If I may, yes. Well, the application submittal can be approved outright. There'd be no need for a variance. If the only thing
Well,
requested is
do you check my math first before I do that?
I can do that if that's your choice, we can go through and do that. But I don't have my calculations in front of me. It's in another file. But this particular information, you sound like you're on track. If I were to take the information and divide it in half, you're within the limitations. You're fine.
Okay, good.
All right, so I take it that at this point, Mr. Popelka, you want to withdraw your request for a variance at this time?
Yeah, if once you're satisfied that I can go ahead.
We actually have to withdraw it because we're here today, or you could continue, we could continue this so that Mr. Farkas can do the math with you. And that way you're covered sort of both ways, so you don't have to come back and pay a second.
That's what I prefer then.
Okay. Anybody object to that theory?
No objection whatsoever.
No objection.
Just so you guys know, I quickly calculated, he's at 32%. He is within the code permitted size, so he is okay.
Well, still,
thank you. Then I withdraw my request then.
All right, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your patience. Okay, Hanson's, are you there?
I will try to call them.
Okay.
They're here.
You know, you.
Hey, I'm still here.
Okay.
Hey, there he is.
So we're gonna call your case again, folks. It's
Okay.
2020-11 Bruce and Elaine Hanson, 355 West Dot Way, Elyria, Ohio 44035, requesting a variance from section 1175.03 of the Elyria Codified Ordinances. The proposed driveway extension is indicated to be 3 feet in width and is to be installed adjacent to the existing 16-foot driveway. The combined driveway coverage calculates at 36.54%, and the zoning code requirement states that the areas of a driveway and a front yard shall not exceed 33 1/3 of the area in such yard. Sir, I don't know if you've been, and ma'am, if you have heard us talking, but before we allow you to talk, you just got to raise your right hands if you're going to testify and be sworn.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. I'll. You can swear me in.
Okay.
I'll raise my right hand.
Okay. Do you solemnly swear?
My wife's a witness.
You're about to give him the following
Is
minute.
she going to testify too?
So help you God.
No. She's just witnessing that I'm raising my right hand.
We believe you, sir.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard any of this testimony and what we talked about when we were talking about one of your neighbors, but
Yes, I heard it.
please tell us why you think you deserve a variance.
Well,
That's said enough.
I'm similar to the other gentleman. I'm 80 years old and my wife is 75. I think. Anyway, and so if both cars are parked side by side in the driveway, there's no way that we can get out of the car on the left without stepping all over whatever we have planted there. We don't have anything planted there right now, but I mean, there wouldn't be any way. We'd have to step on the lawn and go through that way. And on the other side, on the right side, she would have to be, or he would have to be over far enough to where he could get out of the car, and it would be it would be a close fit. And my wife likes to drive on the lawn.
Oh, nice. Mr. Hanson, I just have to ask you, your house is the one where the left side is done and the right side's just got the hole and the rebar in it, right?
That's correct, sir.
And how close is 362 or 370 to you?
362?
Yeah.
Oh, let me think. About 4 houses down on the left side.
And it's wide. They haven't.
And I have no idea. I haven't looked at it.
Right. You could probably find 5 or 6 houses going back out to Chestnut Ridge from your house.
Oh, yes, that's true.
Mr. Farkas, We're gonna allow you to talk.
Thank you, sir. Through you. The site is currently zoned residential low density district as previously indicated. It was granted a conditional use to permit a residential planned unit development. The original submittal showed all driveways to be 16 feet across the board. As discussed, the driveways started popping up larger, which kind of surprised us. We then went into damage control and are systematically going house by house trying to correct these. And I did actually speak with the builder himself and asked that he request to go back to planning commission and get a blanket variance for the entire subdivision within reason for these lots, as they pretty much are all boilerplate with the exceptions of the ones on the cul-de-sacs. But that's something out of my control. This particular submittal is slightly over the requirements. I calculated if 1 foot 8 inches of width was removed from the proposal, they would not need a variance at all. So I'll leave that in the board's hands.
Well, and I would note just from my viewing all of these is that if you removed some of it, then it doesn't really look symmetrical with the house or the driveway. So you either have this driveway that's only as wide as the interior of your garage in order to the inside lip of your garage, or you have that concrete to the edge of either side of your garage. And in my own personal opinion, those look way better. But hearing Mr. Hansen's argument and Mr. Popelka's argument about people being able to get out of their car, especially in the wintertime, it does not allow you. They're going to be stepping in the lawn, stepping in slush. Those are my thoughts on these. And frankly, well, anyway, who else wants to talk about this?
Well, I can speak on behalf. I actually experienced a similar thing in one of my properties that was listed when a group of realtors came through, and it was a real narrow driveway. And one of the elder realtors stepped out of her car, and it, because there was not enough room, she was partially on the driveway and partially in the yard, the lawn, and she fell and she broke her arm. That was an issue then for the homeowner, unfortunately, potentially being held responsible for a lawsuit. Maybe I'm going off track, but exactly what Mr. Hansen is saying is that they have friends that are elderly coming to their home, and if they don't have room to get outside of their vehicle and they fall, and because of stepping out in the lawn or the offset of the driveway in the lawn, then that presents a whole different type of issue that the builder needs to address personally.
Yeah, and my point earlier that, these are cluster homes, so there isn't a whole lot of yard anyway. So, doing anything very, very slightly really skews that percentage very much.
Our problem is Daryl's got his hands tied because.
I agree. I'm not faulting Daryl at all.
And I can't speak for council, but it makes, and that'd be Amanda, but I deal with them and Daryl all the time. It makes more sense for the builder to go back and ask for a blanket variance.
Absolutely.
They've got another several hundred homes to build. And if you decide to grant this variance, we still have to go to everybody and keep having them come back. We're going to have 400 applications over time to grant these variances. And it's, not going to make people happy. But again, once we start a precedent, we also have to understand we've started a precedent. We would still.
There's 5 more right now that I saw yesterday that, again, depending on the square footage of their front yards, but they're all pretty doggone close. I can't imagine. I would have to say that every single one of those people, 308, 326, 329, 370, and 362 would all need a variance.
Right. I haven't been there, but I've been there to other people's houses. So
yeah.
it's a serious concern issue. But unfortunately, all we're here for is the variance aspect of it.
I get it.
And I understand how you can do what you want and grant it. I just want to make sure everybody's aware we may have 400 of these because Daryl's going to, and poor Mary sitting back there in the background is going to be writing letters out the wazoo. And again, it might be easier for the builder once they hear the concern that they may want to come back and ask for that blanket variance. Whether council will grant it, we can't guarantee that.
Right, sure.
Planning commission. Daryl, I'm not sure. I'd think about that. Would that have to go to planning commission first?
That would have to go back to planning commission, and for the board's knowledge, I have spoken with the developer and mentioned just that on the last 3 or 4 requests that have come in attempts to try to nip it in the bud and create and stop this hardship that keeps coming to, they keep using the city. We're just reacting to something that they've already approved.
Right.
So I just want to get that out there.
All right. Well, it's 4:25. This has got to be one of the longest meetings we've ever had. So at this point, I think the chair would entertain.
No, we still, Joel, because of the volume of these, we have to go quickly through the characteristics of the case law and then grant, if you decide to grant it. And then I think there still should be some more conversation, not with the board, but either through the mayor's office or the building department or whatever, saying,
I would
hey,
certainly agree with that. All right. Well, let's do it. Okay. We're talking about the Hansons, right? Yeah. Okay. First one, whether the special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land or structure involved and which are not applicable generally to other lands or structures in the same zoning district. I would say absolutely. They're cluster homes, they're small yards. Anybody else want to comment on this one?
I agree.
Okay. Anybody else?
Why don't we do this to make it faster? If the other members, if Karen agrees, we'll get everybody's opinion as we go through, and it's gonna make it real simple for the vote at the end.
Okay. All right. So everybody agrees, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Karen,
whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. I guess the answer to that is yes. I mean, I suppose there's still beneficial use, right?
Yes.
But the homeowner did not indicate an answer on here. So I think this.
But that's not, I mean, they can answer, but that's not really the requirement. The requirement is for us to answer that. We just want them to give us their spiel, so to speak.
Our Board of Zoning Appeals meeting is still going on. It's gonna be about 5 minutes.
Okay. So, I mean, wouldn't you say, Mr. Golden, that the answer to that would be yes as well, right?
I absolutely would say yes.
Okay. Okay. The next one, which is skewed, whether the variance is substantial and is the minimum necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land and structures. I would say yes to that. It is minimal. Anybody else? Does everybody agree? Yes?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. 4, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, whether adjoining properties would suffer substantial detriment as a result of the variance. I would say, it doesn't affect it. I don't think that there's a detriment to other properties. So I guess there's kind of like a yes and a no there, right? I mean, it's not really substantially altered.
No.
And there's no substantial detriment to other property owners.
Right. So it'd be a double no.
Yeah, double no. All right. 5, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. We've heard no testimony. It doesn't appear that those would have any interference other than a. Okay. 6, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of zoning. These folks may have gotten duped, or somebody just wasn't on the ball and didn't have the right answer when they wanted to do things, obviously. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
So it's,
But we will, and that's fine with that answer, but they would take subject to whatever had been approved by the city based on those. So that still needs to be recognized. You can still vote the way you want, but
yeah, I know, but I mean, again, we heard them say that, but okay.
you look at the driveway of people who are the originals, they wouldn't know, but the people who have built since would see that drive.
Yes, that's true. All right, 7, whether special conditions or circumstances exist as a result of the actions of the owner. Yeah, I think so. Some of them have to come back and get a variance now, right?
Correct.
All right. 8, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than the variance. Obviously, no. There's no way.
Everybody agree?
Everybody agree?
Well, no, there could be if he went back to the original builder and the builder went back, but I think the intent was that this is the only way that
Yeah.
they
As it
personally.
sits now, as it sits now, yes.
That is correct, yes.
All right. All right, next, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting variance. I say yes. What do you guys,
Yes.
you guys agree?
Yes,
Okay. 10, whether the granting of the variance requested will confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this regulation, or by these regulations of other land structures, buildings in the same district. I think the answer would be no, or we know how we're dealing with this, whether we have 1,000 of them come in or whether maybe the builder gets on the ball and takes care of things.
correct.
Agreed? All right, and is the variance sought the minimum which will afford relief to the applicant? I say yes. Do you folks agree?
I do.
Okay. Are you satisfied, Mr. Taylor?
I am.
Thank you. All right, so at this point, the chair will entertain a motion on case number 2020-11, Bruce L. and Elaine Hanson, 355 Westcott Way, Elyria, Ohio.
Mr. Chairman, since I've been making the motions tonight, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for this variance. And
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we grant the variance in case number 2020-11. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Mr. and Mrs. Hanson, congratulations. You are the only applicants that were approved today.
Well, I want to thank you so much. It's been a little stressful time for us, and I do want to thank you folks for allowing us to do this. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being good citizens and coming forward and doing all those good things. We really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, now I see it being about 4:31 and we started at 3:05. So this chair will entertain a motion to adjourn until our next ensuing meeting.
I will second that.
We need a first.
I'll motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. I bet you we have a few more of these next month, right, Daryl?
Quick.